Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was The Menu, making $5.4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $18 million and a worldwide total of $33 million. So this was kind of a surprise to me, as with all the new wide releases hitting theaters this past weekend, I thought that this movie would have been knocked out by many of the new wide releases, but no, it was able to put up a good fight against a couple of the new wide releases and stay in the top 5. Not only that, but it also had a pretty solid hold for a horror film, just falling 39%, which goes in line with my expectations last week that this would fall in line similarly to Barbarian, which was also another little horror film that completely exceeded expectations, as this movie is also starting to become a decent hit for itself right now, as it was able to surpass its initial $30 million budget worldwide, which is a very good sign. And given how well it's holding right now and the very little competition in terms of full-blown horror films and how these next couple of weeks are a bit slower than usual, I think this movie might have a shot of at least getting close or maybe even doubling its budget worldwide, given the circumstances and the strong word of mouth it has. Again, this may be dead wrong, but I think this movie has that going for it. Audiences seem to really like it, and thanks to the cheap budget and it already surpassing that worldwide, it seems like a possibility. So while it may not be in the top 5 for much longer, I do believe that this movie could very well be a decent hit for itself in the coming weeks for sure. Number 4 was Devotion, opening with $5.9 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $9 million, and that total stays the same worldwide as it has yet to be released in any international countries. So if you notice, the numbers between the 4th and 5th place spots are very close, pretty much a $400,000 difference between the two of them, which goes to show not only how strong The Menu's second weekend was, but also how poor Devotion's first weekend was. This is a pretty bad opening weekend, especially when you consider the fact that the movie costed a whopping $90 million. It is going to need all the help in the world to salvage this terrible opening. Unfortunately, I just didn't see this movie doing all that well, as the marketing was rather lackluster, and that resulted in the buzz to just not be there for this movie. And even then, I was expecting it to at least crack the $10 million market, at least within the first 5 days, but it couldn't even do that, which is very unfortunate, as I've heard pretty solid things about it. It's been getting good reviews, and audiences seem to really like it as well. It got an A- cinema score, which is very good. It could indicate strong word of mouth, which is this movie's really only hope in regaining any sort of amount of success. And also, it hasn't been released in any major international countries, so hopefully that helps boost the worldwide totals to at least crossing the initial budget. But yeah, this movie is definitely in a rough place right now. We'll see how it holds, we'll see how it fares against the other big movies, but yeah, it's off to a pretty bad start. Things are not looking great for Devotion. Number 3 was Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, opening with an estimated $9.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $13 million, and that total also stays the same worldwide, as it has not been released in any international markets. I say estimated because, believe it or not, folks, these are not the official numbers released by Netflix, as they choose to still hide their official box office numbers from the public for a reason I don't know and I will never understand. But thanks to the fine folks at Deadline and Variety and various industry experts, we were able to get at least some semblance of how successful this movie was. And sure, compared to everything else and in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't look that impressive. But when you take into consideration that this is a movie that was released in just a little over 600 movie theaters nationwide for 1 week only. This is a very solid number. In fact, from what I've heard from various movie theater chains and even some people I know who have worked at the movie theater, this was one of the biggest movies of the weekend if the theater was showing it. So much so that even at certain theaters, this movie was doing better than the number one movie of the weekend, which we'll get to later. This movie had an audience. It had buzz, the marketing was strong, and it was a sequel to a beloved films of the past couple years. This should have been a genuine bona fide hit. As a matter of fact, many industry experts said that had this movie gotten a traditional theatrical release, this movie had a shot of opening at number 2 or maybe even number 1. This was a genuine blockbuster to be had here, but this is Netflix in 2022, so obviously they were going to make the stupidest decision possible. So yeah, well, this is a very impressive opening weekend given the circumstances it was released in, and it's sure to generate buzz and interest for the movie as soon as the movie drops on Netflix later in December. Unfortunately, this will probably be the last time we talk about this movie, as this movie is only going to be in theaters for a week, meaning it will only be in this top 5 for a week, unless Netflix decides to pull what Disney did with the re-release of Avatar and extend its theatrical run, which I'm highly doubtful about that. It's unfortunate because this could have once again been a genuine, necessary, huge blockbuster movie that is probably really needed. Sure, we're still getting a couple more, but you know, it would be nice to have gotten at least one more to satisfy audiences, especially during Thanksgiving. This definitely seemed like the big new movie hitting theaters, but this is Netflix in 2022, and they have clearly shown us that they do not want to take new chances or make money. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Number 2 was Strange World, opening with 12 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 18 million and a worldwide total of $27 million. So folks, if you remember when I was discussing this film last week, I did not have the highest hopes for it. There were certainly benefits to it that I pointed out, but mostly I thought this was going to have a lackluster opening. But I was not prepared for this opening weekend to be this bad. This honestly really surprised me, as this is the 9th biggest opening weekend for an animated film post-theater closure era, behind the Bob's Burgers movie, Paw Patrol the movie, The Boss Baby Family Business, The Addams Family 2, DC League of Super Pets, The Bad Guys, Encanto, Lightyear, and obviously Minions, The Rise of Gru, and that placement gets even lower when you factor in all family films. It is the 12th biggest opening weekend for a family film post-theater closure era. This is a really bad opening, not just for Disney, but for this movie in general, as the film apparently costs around $135 to $180 million. This is a terrible opening weekend. I know there are a lot of people who are going to have their opinions on how or why this movie flopped, but I think there is really only one answer here, and that is the fact that the marketing was pretty lackluster. I barely saw any sort of promotion for this movie outside of getting the trailer a couple times in front of a couple movies and seeing a couple commercials here and there, and it really didn't start to ramp up until like 3 days before the movie was coming out. That is not enough time to get the word out about your new animated film that costs almost $200 million, possibly. This is a really bad opening, unfortunately. I don't see this movie getting anywhere near that $180 million budget, let alone the $135 million budget that other sources are saying. But yeah, this movie is definitely in a rough spot, as word of mouth is also not too kind here, as audiences gave this a B on CinemaScore, which might be good for a horror film, but that is not good for a family film. That's pretty bad. So I don't know what else to say. Maybe the movie sparks some love when it releases on Disney Plus, but yeah, they really fumbled the bag here with the marketing. This should have been a decent hit, regardless of your opinions on the movie. It's a new Disney movie releasing on Thanksgiving weekend. That should have been a surefire hit, but they didn't want to promote it, and this is what they got. Oh boy, we'll see where it goes from here, but yeah, things are looking pretty bad for Strange World. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was, for the third week in a row, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, making $45 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $367 million and a worldwide total of $676 million. Boy, did this movie sure pick itself back up. It obviously got a major boost from the Thanksgiving holiday and the strong word of mouth that it has surpassed so many milestones. Let's break them down, shall we? Worldwide, it has surpassed the $600 million milestone, which is fantastic. It should surpass Thor: Love and Thunder's entire worldwide run very soon. We'll see if it could surpass Doctor Strange and maybe even become the third movie this year to gross $1 billion worldwide. We'll just have to wait and see. As far as the domestic side, it has already surpassed Thor: Love and Thunder to become the second highest grossing MCU film of the year. And folks, it is just about $2 million away domestically from surpassing both the Batman and Minions: The Rise of Gru to become the fifth and then eventually the fourth biggest movie of the year domestically. And given where it's at and whenever this video eventually gets uploaded, I'm pretty sure it will already have done that by the time this video drops online. So congratulations, I guess. As well as it just being a little under $9 million away from surpassing Jurassic World Dominion's entire domestic run. And it'll probably get there by the end of this week. So yeah, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is still doing very well. Obviously, once again, strong word of mouth, the Thanksgiving holiday, people really liking this movie. It seems ever so likely that it's poised to become in the top 3 biggest movies of the year. Again, we'll see if it can surpass Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Don't think it's gonna get to Top Gun's numbers, though. I think that's out of its reach at its point. It's still doing well, but Top Gun Maverick was just a league of its own, so don't think Top Gun Maverick will have anything to worry about. But this was still a very solid run for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, given that we're only in its 3rd week, and it still has plenty of time before Avatar also breaks everything pretty much. So I don't think this will be the end of the strongholds we see for this movie right now. Obviously, it's probably going to have a bigger than expected drop off next weekend due to it being that Thanksgiving is over. So there's that. But even with that, this movie has just done so well right now and has just become the juggernaut of a film that it is. It really doesn't amount to anything. So yeah, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is still at the top of the box office and still crushing it. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend, we only really have one new major wide release that I'm aware of, that being Violent Night, the only true legitimate Christmas movie hitting theaters this year, which is just so funny. But regardless, this is a movie about Santa Claus, played by David Harbour, who has to save a little girl and her family from a group of ruthless mercenaries by violently murdering and killing them all. And by violently murdering and killing them all, I am referring to the mercenaries, not the little girl and her family. Anyway, this may come to surprise you, but I think this movie could do way better than what people expect it to. First off, the marketing for this movie has been fantastic. I've been seeing plenty of ads and promotional material going on and on about this movie. They have definitely done a good job of getting the word out, and there's also a lot of really solid buzz for the film as well. Lots of people talking about it, excited to see it, interested to see it, and while reviews aren't out as of yet, first reactions have popped up here and there, and they have been mostly positive. Many people saying it's a instant Christmas classic, which I don't know about that. I'll have to see this movie for myself to judge that, if you know what I mean. But those are still really positive and way better than expected for a movie called Violet Night. But I'm not expecting this movie to be a blockbuster opening weekend, as it does have some things holding it back. Given the subject matter of this Christmas movie, I don't think everyone can or is going to see this movie. Definitely don't think this is a Christmas movie for little Billy and Susie, or even Grandma and Grandpa to see and enjoy with the whole family, given that it is rated R and said to be really violent and raunchy. And there are also those Christmas purists who are going to call blasphemy and condemn this movie for being, much more adult and violent and raunchier than most Christmas movies, which probably will also hold it back a bit. And it's definitely going to be competing with the strong leg power of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, as that movie has just been dominating thus far, and there is a good shot that movie might overshadow Violent Night. But otherwise, those issues, yeah, I have a lot of high expectations for Violent Night. I think it's going to do really well, but we'll see how well it truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that landed the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.